Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, September the 7th. And welcome to our commentary. Tonight, we have a couple of our good friends joining us to talk about immigration enforcement and Secretary Rubio in Mexico. So let's say hello to our good friend, George Rodriguez. George, how you been?
Real good. Thank you very much.
And
Good to
of
be here.
course, our dear friend, Allan Wall. How are you, Allan?
Well, fine, thank you.
Allan, do you realize that our first podcast was in 2007?
Wow, that's amazing. That's 18 years, isn't it?
I know, I know.
How time flies.
It really did. The first time we spoke, I think you were living in Mexico at the time,
Yes, yes.
and we were talking about what was going on the border and all of that. But today we're going to split the program into a couple of areas. First of all, we'll talk a little bit about immigration enforcement up here and what could be happening in Chicago, what just happened in Georgia with this automotive plant where they found 450 people working without papers. I mean, that's almost insane. Hard to believe something like that. And then we're also going to be talking a great deal about what's happening in Mexico with Secretary Rubio's visit. But before we get to the serious stuff, I got to drop this in. Buddy Holly was born on this day in 1937. He was born in Lubbock, Texas. He's actually buried there. And I remember, oh my gosh, about 20 years ago, a friend of mine from Mexico was doing some business in Lubbock. So he asked me to accompany him. And I said, well, sure, I'll go with you. He didn't speak a lot of English, and he just wanted me to kind of go along and be his good buddy and maybe help him translate in some of the business meetings. And when we get to Lubbock, we land in Lubbock, and I say to the taxi driver, hey, listen, do you know where Buddy Holly is buried? And he goes, of course I do. Everybody's asking me for it. So he took us to the grave where Buddy Holly is buried, which is apparently a real tourist attraction there
Wow.
in Lubbock. I mean, it's a big deal. When the taxi drivers know where people are buried, one, you have to get the feeling that they probably have taken a few people there. So I was there, and I got out of the car, and the taxi cab driver was very nice about the whole thing. But Buddy Holly, I mean, he had a big influence in the Beatles, Allan.
Right, that's right.
George, you being originally from Texas, a lot of people associate Buddy Holly with Texas. I don't know if you agree with that.
I Yeah, they do. I mean, I remember my older sisters listening to an old rock and roll program that used to originate out of, I believe, out of Nuevo Laredo or maybe El Paso or Juarez. I'm not sure, but it was this they called it a contraband station that would broadcast outside the FCC,
Right.
and it would broadcast all the way to Chicago, my understanding. And they used to listen to this radio station, and Buddy Holly was uh, one of the top records that or artists that they were always playing. And I do remember in 1959 when he died, when the crash took place, and the reaction from a lot of the older teens, like my siblings, my older siblings, the reaction of when the music died, so to speak.
Yeah, of course that became famous later with American Pie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean he was actually quite influential. Rolling Stone magazine they publish with frequency like a list of the top 100 most influential people in rock. And he's number 13, which is
Wow.
pretty remarkable when you consider he's been dead for over 50 years. But
Yeah.
they point out to his influence in the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. I mean, the Beatles even recorded one of his songs called "Words of Love" in
Yeah.
one of their early albums. So and the Stones, I think, recorded "Not Fade Away,"
And
which is
he was
another
also
Buddy
one of
Holly
the
song.
oh, he
Yeah,
was a
go ahead.
pioneer in writing his own songs,
Correct.
He was.
whereas a
He
lot of
was.
artists they would write songs for them, but Buddy Holly wrote his own. So that he was a
Yeah, he did.
pioneer in that.
And
He was.
that opened the door. That opened the door. Him
Yes.
writing his own songs opened the door for the rock and roll era to have what they called a voice for the teens. And I remember there was a documentary about that, about how it was now teens that were writing songs about teens, or young people writing songs about young people, and it apparently revolutionized. I mean, our whole generation has been a generation which has been raised on rock and roll. So to me, it's not a big deal. But apparently, up until that time, it was the big commercial studios and music companies that did the writing and the promoting.
Well, yeah, because in the old days, well, not in the old days, but I guess in the early days of rock, even Elvis didn't write any of his things. What they had was like songwriters in house, and they would write the songs and give them to the performer. I mean, that's what they did with Elvis, with a lot of the others of that time. But you're right, Buddy Holly was unique in that he wrote his own songs. My favorite Buddy Holly song, and then we'll leave this wonderful topic to get into the serious stuff, but my favorite Buddy Holly song is "True Love Ways," which was actually
very beautiful one.
It is, and it's a song that I believe he wrote to his wife, and of course he died very shortly after they got married. I mean, less than a year, and he wrote to his wife. Her name was Maria Elena. She was a Puerto Rican girl in New York that he met in one of the studios. And True Love Ways, he didn't have a big hit with it, but it's been a very popular country song. And Martina McBride, a very popular country singer, had a hit with it recently. But True Love Ways, I think, is one of the greatest songs that he wrote. Wasn't a big hit for him, but it's become kind of the Buddy Holly standard over the years. Well, anything else? Wait a minute, George. I have to follow up when you were talking about the pirate stations that you were talking about. Reminded me of Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, right.
In American Graffiti. Remember that he used to broadcast out of Mexico?
Yes.
And he had there was a radio station just south of the border. Sure. There was a radio station just south of the border where he was broadcasting like 100,000 watts.
Yeah.
Which is the maximum in the U.S. is 50,000 legally. And he was broadcasting 100,000 watts, and he was covering the entire West Coast. And
well, apparently there were several stations like that at that point.
Oh, I bet there were. I mean, in Mexico, I'm sure there were several like that. And I mean, you didn't even have to do it from Mexico. You could probably do it from islands in the Caribbean or whatever. But if you were broadcasting 100,000 watts at night, you could cover the entire North American market with a radio station out of, it could be right on the other side of San Diego, Tijuana or whatever. And so I understand that, that's what Wolfman Jack used to do. Yeah. He used to cross the border every day to go to work and play songs. So anyway, that's a great movie too, American Graffiti. That's a great movie as well. And that kind of brought back a lot of that stuff, didn't it? I mean, that was kind of cool. All right. Well, a couple of big topics, and I wanted both of you on tonight because you're both very familiar with these areas. But let's start with George, and then Allan, please pitch in as you see fit. But ICE is undergoing right now, and I know you know Tom Holman, George, quite well. ICE is undergoing some operations, I believe, in Chicago. They just did one in Georgia, wherever that was, and several others, where they're going to some of these big cities and apparently successfully, arresting a lot of people, even though they keep telling us they're arresting grandmothers, but they're arresting a lot of criminals. And George, what can you tell us about that?
Well, when I worked at in immigration, when we were working on the 86 law, one of the most, probably the most contentious part of that law in 1986 was the issue of employer sanctions, that there would be penalties for any employer hiring illegal aliens, hiring aliens illegally. Not only just illegal aliens, because hiring anybody that's here in the country illegally, that's a crime within itself, but hiring a foreigner without proper permission, that's, even if the foreigner is here on a tourist visa or something like that. But that was the most contentious part. And the biggest opposition was from big businesses, was from the Chamber of Commerce. In today's world, it continues to be a very contentious issue, a very contentious point of immigration law enforcement, because you've got so many businesses that continually violate this law. Not only do you have Hyundai, and I was surprised at the number myself.
No, I was too.
But you've got butchers in Iowa. You've got the agriculture business. You've got the ranching business. You've got tons and tons of businesses that say that the American economy is going to collapse if we continue to arrest illegal aliens. Well, I got news for you. The study that we did in 1984-85 showed very clearly that the two things that prevented Americans from taking the jobs that they won't take, supposedly, as we are always told, from taking these jobs, the two things were, first of all, the wages. The wages are very, very low. The working conditions. Secondly, the working conditions. But the wages, that is very, very much coupled to the welfare system of the United States. The welfare system, when you put together the benefits are equal or better than the low wages that are paid in these jobs. Mm-hmm. So anybody with any brain is going to say, why should I go and work hard when I can stay home, get these benefits, and watch Jerry Springer? I mean, there's no two ways around that.
Well, there's got to be a Spanish. There's got to be a Spanish version of Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that one, Caso Cerrado. That
right. Well, I love that one. Yeah, that's a great show. That's a Cuban judge out of Miami. That's a funny show.
But
my parents, by the way, my parents used to love that show because it was based out of Miami, a Cuban woman who was the judge, and it was all Cubans, of course, and it was hilarious. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, well, those this argument continues now, and there, a place like Georgia, a place like California specifically, is going to have many, many more benefits for Americans to not work, incentives for Americans not to work and take these jobs, while they open up the gates for illegal immigration. You've got the best of both worlds in their mind. Same thing is happening in places like New York and places like Illinois, and so it's not surprising, but it's got to be addressed. It has got to be addressed. Well,
let me bring in Allan. Allan, I know you've written a lot about immigration and the border over the years, but how do you see this whole thing developing?
Well, it's interesting. Well, first off, I was interested, George. I'd like to hear more someday about your experiences back there in the 80s working on that. That sounds very interesting. And, usually the public, when the public thinks of illegal labor, they think of, some guy that goes to Home Depot and just picks people up. But, this shows that it's also corporations that are doing it, that ought to be, regimented and following the law. But here you got a major corporation involved in this.
You've got a lot of high-tech industries nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of high-tech industries that have been employing Indians from India.
And in many cases, their tourist visas expired. That they got in on a
tourist visa.
And I think that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened in Georgia, guys. I think there was a bunch of South Koreans who have just been, I guess they've been flown out of the country. South Korea acted really fast and flew them out of the country. But here's the other issue, though, where it becomes a scandal. I think it's a big scandal, is that this particular plant in Georgia was subsidized to open by the government to open this facility.
Yeah,
they received all kinds of fiscal incentives from the state of Georgia, and if the whole idea was that they were going to create a lot of well-paying jobs for Americans, well, when you have 1,200 employees, and 450 of them are, illegal aliens, in one way or another. They're not. I mean, there's all kinds of different types of illegal aliens. Most of them are tourist visas, from what I understand. But anyway, that cannot make the state legislature in Georgia happy that they provided all these tax incentives for a facility to open, Allan. I mean, you remember the legislator, let's say, and and you're told, hey, we're going to open this, we're going to give Hyundai. And by the way, I'm not picking on Hyundai. They make very good cars, but I'm just saying I don't drive one, but they're not really the issue. It could be any other company, but they're going to make all these cars and create jobs for Americans. And you find out that all these subsidies that you gave are not even going to create jobs for Americans, Allan.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane. By the way, I gotta get this in because George, you mentioned something that, and I've said this many times before. Whenever I've been on Univision or whatever, they always bring up this stuff that only immigrants or illegal immigrants want to do these jobs. And then I always say, wait a minute. My father, who was a banker in Cuba, we came to the United States, and he was a bellboy at a hotel for 4 years. What do you mean? Only illegals want to do this? There's a lot of illegal immigrants who've done this kind of work because they had to. In the case of my dad, well, he had to feed a family, so he had to get a second job at a hotel while he was working at a factory during the day, and eventually he got back into banking. But my point is that there's lots of legal immigrants who do these jobs. They don't have to be illegals. The only reason they're illegals is because, as George was saying, they make less money. They don't need benefits, and you can fire them on the spot, Allan. You can just hire somebody at 9 o'clock in the morning and fire them in the afternoon, and there's no commitment one way or the other. So I think that's what it is, Allan.
Right, right. Yeah, and these companies, they want the best of both worlds because they complain when you say, oh, yeah, we're going to take your labor away, but they don't do, all the benefits that the workers are supposed to have. Yeah. And things like that. So, everybody ought to follow the same rules, including corporations.
Sure. And even, there are it's more prevalent, I think, with smaller businesses, these hirings. I mean, obviously restaurants and stuff like that are very common, but to me, they're really discriminating against these workers, because they're not paying them a fair wage. They don't take care of benefits. And I've even heard here in Texas that they don't cover them under some of these accident insurance that they have. So if you're working for one of these companies, and George, you've probably seen this, you're working for one of these companies and you hurt yourself, and it's like, well, the doctor's office is over there, and good luck to you. Whereas if they were working for you, they are covered under whatever the accident insurance program is called, guys.
Which is the irony to this whole thing, because the people that are screaming mostly for the open border are the Democrats, and the ones that claim that they are fighting for workers' rights are the Democrats. Yet they allow, by not supporting the issue of an I-9. That's the form that you're supposed to fill out anytime that you get a job. You're supposed to fill out an I-9 that verifies that you are legally in the United States, or that you're a citizen and have the authorization to work. Most companies have quit, using those, or there's never been any. There have been rare times where there are audits to make sure that a company or a business is using those I-9s. And the biggest opponents of those are the Democrats, right. And that allows for the exploitation, for the abuse that goes on with these illegal alien workers. Right. It just seems like the Democrats, every time that they want to fix something, they make it worse.
Yes, there is some truth to that, George. But am I the only one who remembers when in 2008, a candidate for president named Barack Obama was opposed to NAFTA because he said it was unfair on American workers?
Yeah.
Because we were going to bring all this cheap labor or send out all these. I mean, the Democrats have made 180 degree. Yeah. I mean, they've gone from being the party that hated sending jobs overseas to now I guess they like it because Trump is on the other side. I mean, it is really incredible how they've switched on that just because of Trump. But here's my feeling, guys. We keep hearing the argument that these companies that these people are indispensable. These companies have to have these people, otherwise they're going to shut down. Okay, I believe you. And if that's what it is, then why don't you sponsor them under the guest worker program?
Exactly.
Do you
Because they
understand
don't
what
want
I
to be
mean?
responsible. They
Well,
do
that's
not
it.
want to be responsible for it.
But Allan, I'm sure you're familiar with this guest worker program that we have, and it's like, why, if they're so important and you need them so much, then go to immigration and say, look, I need these 100 people, and the only way I can get them is by getting them from outside the country. Let me sponsor them legally, and these people come in, and at least not only are you doing it legally as a company, but I think that the employees are better treated like they used to be under the Bracero program many years ago, Allan.
They are. Yeah.
What's funny is a lot of the public and even some of the media, the way they talk, are not even aware that guest worker programs exist, because sometimes people will say, what would solve this problem? We need a guest worker program.
Right.
We have over 20 different guest worker programs. So
right.
It's amazing the ignorance of the public and some of the media.
Well, you're right. All you got to do is Google guest worker program, and you're going to get like 100 different types. You're exactly right. You're going to be directed to all these programs, because that happened to me the other day. I was on Univision, and I was talking to this lady, and this lady said, there is no such thing as a guest worker program. And I said, well, please forgive me, because I think there is. And not only is there one, but I just sent the moderator before the program a link to all of them. So, but I don't know. I don't know if it's ignorance or they just hate Trump. It may be both. I don't know, Allan. It's crazy, but it is really. What about how successful do you think ICE is going to be in Chicago? I'll start with you first, Allan.
Oh, well, I'm sure they got their work cut out for them there, and plus, you got the opposition from the mayor and all these people. Well, I mean, they got a lot of work to do there, I'm sure.
And Allan, George, could the mayor be arrested? He probably wants to be arrested.
I think. Well, yes, definitely. They want to do political theater. Like the Congresswoman.
Right. Oh yeah.
Trying to get into the various detention centers. But I think that this situation is one that's it could get very, very nasty. Number one,
I think so,
because you've got politicians, you've got city council people trying to organize resistance. You've had a city councilwoman in Los Angeles trying to get the gangs organized to defend their turf, if you can believe that. You've got these people that are unhinged at this point, and the law, unfortunately, is on the side of the state. And if the state does not want to comply, then there are several steps that have to be taken before the federal government can do that. I mean, it's not South Carolina firing on a fort, but it is the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago defying a federal law. So it's going to get, which is what they want, in my opinion. What the Democrats want is some type of constitutional crisis. And I think
that's it. They want the show.
Not only a constitutional crisis, but also problems in the street.
Yeah, I mean, they want the show. And if you're the mayor of Chicago, this is the best way of getting out of doing your job, which you're not doing very well anyway. So maybe we should take the mayor and put him in Alcatraz in Florida.
Well,
and that would be perfect for him.
To North Korea. I mean, he's very much a socialist.
Yes,
who believes that socialism is send him to Havana. Send him to.
Well, the guy's got like a 6% approval rate in Chicago. So you would think that a guy like that would look to Trump and say, "Hey, Trump, maybe you can help me get over 6%."
Yeah.
But I understand they're protecting the city with garbage trucks. Did you hear about that? That they're like barricading the city with garbage trucks.
I mean, they really they are acting like it's the Nazi invasion of Paris.
Right. The occupation of Chicago. You didn't hear about that one?
Yes.
The occupation of Chicago, except that if you know anything about the crime in Chicago, and I'm sure you guys do, it's all in like a 10 or 15 block area. I mean, I have several friends in Chicago who live in the northern part, really almost outside of Cook County, and they tell me it's great. There's no problem here. It's more on the south side, and it's like a 10 or 15 block area. So it wouldn't be really that hard to do.
Well, and again, it's the people that they claim that they want to help, the minorities, the low income minorities that they want to help. Those are the ones that suffer the most from crime and violence.
Right. That's exactly right. Well, let's move on to another topic here, very interesting topic, and that is Secretary Rubio in Mexico, and he went to Ecuador as well, which I was very happy that he did, because that's a country that really needs our help. And then, of course, while he was down there, I guess before he went to Mexico, we shot that boat or whatever out in the open seas. But you know, Allan, you've been following Mexico for a long time, and I have too. I've never seen a reaction, and the reaction is from both sides. You know, from the people who think that Mexico is a narco country to the people who think, please don't tell me that. That's not true. But it's really been crazy, the reaction, Allan. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, I looked at both sides, you know, what they both said about it, and they both seemed that they were at least everything public was very positive and went very smoothly. And he spoke with the Juan Ramon de la Fuente, you know, their foreign minister. They had a press conference, and of course he spoke with Claudia Sheinbaum. Just seemed to go very smoothly. You know, we'll see how that translates into real world results, but it seemed to go very well.
Well, on the surface, yes, but if you look at the way that many in the media are treating it, is like they keep saying that, you know, I mean, they want you to believe that Rubio went down with this list of people, and he gave the list to the Mexican government and said, we want these people in America in a jail. And one of them, again, from what they're saying, is the son of the former president, who apparently has done quite well in business since here in recent years. But I mean, I don't know if that's even true, because I'm not sure that the United States wants to push Mexico that much, Allan.
Right. Yeah. Who knows about that? The thing is, Claudia Sheinbaum, she's very intelligent. She tries to figure out a way, because she doesn't want to appear to the public that she's, you know, giving up Mexico's sovereignty, but she is cooperating with Trump on several issues, including taking illegal aliens back. They every once in a while they will extradite a bunch of narcos, probably glad to get them out of the country. And also, she's been very successful negotiating tariffs with Trump. She seems to be able to postpone most of his tariffs directed against Mexico. And very importantly, I think Trump, she's kind of won him over. You know, they've spoken on the phone. They haven't met in person yet, but they've spoken on the phone like 9 times, and he seems to really respect her.
Well, he thinks that she's very smart and very elegant.
Yeah,
and so on, which is probably true. But you know, George, what are they saying, you know, down in South Texas about all of this? I mean, is it getting a lot of attention?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting a lot of attention. The thing is that here in South Texas, particularly among the Americans of Mexican descent, which is, you know, the vast majority of South Texas, because of the past history, the past political history of the PRI and the PAN and the PPS and all the other, you know, presidents of Mexico that have, you know, boasted and said things and not done very much. Everything all the way down to the fishing, because there was another fishing boat from Mexico that was intercepted in American waters the other day that was fishing illegally. That's a daily occurrence.
But where is that? Where is that, on the river or what?
On the Gulf Coast.
On the Gulf Coast.
They will get up real close to within American waters in the Houston area, in the Corpus Christi area, and This one was over by the Houston, by Galveston. So these boats have consistently, Mexican boats have consistently come into American waters. Then there's the whole issue of the pollution of the Rio Grande, as well as releasing water to the American side. They have faltered on that constantly. They have faltered on that. Then there's the big one that's been going on in San Diego, the pollution of the San Diego River,
right.
and how terrible that situation is. Not to mention that the San Diego beaches were closed recently because of pollution coming from Mexico.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this issue of immigration is just the tip of is just the tip of the spear, the point here. You've also had several incursions recently of military into New Mexico. Heaven knows what
they're really
doing. Yes.
What, cartels or Mexican military?
Oh, Mexican military. The Mexican military.
I didn't hear that one.
All of these little things, besides them not doing anything about the cartels, because most of us feel that that they might say something to Rubio, but they're not doing anything about the cartels. The sheriffs in Kenny County, the sheriffs in Atascosa County will tell you that they continue to catch people who are now armed and dangerous. I mean, in the past, because the border was open, they didn't care. They were just turning them over to the nonprofits that would ship them on. But now these people are armed and dangerous. So, it's very, very good that Rubio has scared them. I mean, the political thin skin of Mexico, they can, they get offended for anything whenever even if the U.S. sneezes, they get offended. But
they sure do.
The situation that we've got right now is one where Mexico has got to understand that they've got to step up and do something.
Yeah.
Because,
they have to. I mean, there's not much they have to do it. But Allan, let me raise a couple of issues here, a couple of stories I'm sure you're familiar with because you've posted about them. The first one is this issue of this is that lady senator
Lily Tellez,
North, I guess, who gave that.
Right.
Yes, who gave that. That's right, Lily Tellez, who gave that speech and then attacking the narco influence, and then she was interviewed by Fox Noticias, and she never said she wanted an intervention, but she's being accused of that. So that that really has created a lot of conversation. And the other one, and you've posted this a few times too, Allan, is that the violence in like Culiacan and Sinaloa, and what I've heard is that the more that we've closed the border, the tougher it is for these cartels to bring in their stuff. The more they have to fight with each other, and that's why you're seeing all these violent exchanges, because what they're doing is they're fighting each other for whatever routes are left, because we pretty much have closed all the routes. Are you hearing that, Allan?
Well, yeah, that's a typical that always goes on. They're always fighting over the routes, and of course now a year ago when they got El Mayo, they got him arrested, and this battle broke out between two factions of the Sinaloa cartel. That's been going on for a whole year now. Very bloody, a lot of people getting killed there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the factions is teaming up with that big cartel down there in Guadalajara.
That's the Generación cartel?
Yeah, Generación Nueva. So it could completely redraw the map, when this whole thing is over. So, yeah, that's and that's another thing happens when they remove one cartel boss, then there's a struggle within the organization.
That's another situation in South Texas that we're seeing. For example, Nuevo Laredo. Nuevo Laredo is a battleground, a tremendous battleground right now between cartels, and it has affected. It has really, really affected the small businesses on the Laredo side, and these are small businesses that are owned and operated by Mexican Americans. And so, this situation where it used to be, I mean, I remember in the days when I was younger, that, going across the border was very, very simple and very, very safe. They can't do that anymore. Not only can they not do it, but also their goods are also held up, if not sequestered or held up for ransom.
One thing that I've seen here, and I've lived in Texas now for 40 years. 40 years. I cannot believe that. Reagan was president when I moved here.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. But, well, you know about Reagan because you worked in that 86 immigration thing. But anyway, I remember for over the last 40 years, one of the most common things that happens in Texas is that Mexicans will drive to Mexico City or to Mexico. And most of the time they drive because they're not coming from Mexico City or Monterrey. A lot of it is coming from smaller towns in the interior where having to fly to Monterrey or to Mexico City takes up a lot of time because you're going to have to rent a car or get to this other town.
And it's more expensive. Yeah.
And more expensive. So it was very common for them to just not pack up their things, but pack up the family and go down over Christmas, cross the border, spend Christmas down there and come back and get back to normal. I hear more and more now people saying they're not doing that because they're afraid of being attacked. I mean, one guy told me there's no way I'm taking my truck down there.
Yeah.
He has a Ford F-150 and he says the minute I go over the border, I'll lose it. I mean, and people have related stories to me of being stopped. Now, this is not the major highway. I think that's important because there is that major highway when you cross into Mexico that is like a toll road that gets you here and there. A lot of these are the side roads or the country roads that connect all these little towns. And what I've heard is that it's very, very dangerous, almost to the point of the chances of losing your car are almost 50%, Allan. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh, yeah. You hear stories like that all the time. And that's why they're scared to go down. I remember when 20 plus years ago, we would drive north at Christmas time, and we would encounter just, a long line of cars. But, eventually they'll stop doing that if they're afraid that they're going to lose their car and all their money. Plus, they have a lot of gifts for relatives,
right?
A lot of cash probably, and they're targets. They're moving targets.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what they tell me. I mean, just conversation with them, they just tell me that, especially the big trucks, the F-150 or the GMC truck or whatever, that that Toyota truck that is very popular, whatever the name of it is.
The Tundra.
The Tundra, yeah, it's very popular. And that's very popular with the cartels, I guess. They like those. And they like to take them from you when you go down there. Now, again, it doesn't happen on that major highway that is like a toll road. It doesn't happen there. But the problem is most of these people will cross the border and they'll get into, let's say, Laredo or Eagle Pass or whatever. They cross the border and then they drive on that main highway for a while and then have to get off because they're going to their small towns in the interior. And that's where the problem is in these small towns. And they tell me they cannot trust the police. Sometimes they don't even know who the police is. So that's got to be, that's got to be impacting the Mexican economy to some extent, Allan.
Oh, yes. I've read about that for years. That's an ongoing problem.
But it's gotten worse, I think, in recent years, I think, or at least from what I can tell here. It's gotten worse. So let me just kind of wrap up by asking each one of you, what do you expect is going to happen with Rubio and with Mexico and the U.S.? George, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think we'll be hearing about over the next few weeks?
Well, I think that that Mexico is going to have to take some steps to cooperate, as well as to at least show that they are doing something, turning over some prisoners, taking some action against the cartels, military action, something, because they do recognize that they're not playing around with any regular president at this point. That this guy that we've got in the White House really means what he says. I think that the blowing up of that narco ship sent a big message. I mean, Maduro in Venezuela certainly got the message. So I think that you're going to see some level of cooperation. You probably will also hear a lot of screaming and yelling about intimidation, but I think that you're going to see some level of cooperation.
Alan, what do you think will happen the next?
Oh, yes,
few
I
weeks?
agree, because the government of Mexico, they accommodate their actions according to what the government of the United States does. So when Biden was in office, they were doing it one way, but when Trump is in, they've got to accommodate their actions. And so, we'll see that every so often. They'll extradite some people, and they'll have some very public drug busts.
Yeah.
And, they want to show Trump, hey, look at all this stuff we're doing. Because what they don't want is a direct public intervention in Mexico. That would be a big political problem for President Sheinbaum.
Yeah.
So she
or
wants
condemnation, a public condemnation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Bad PR.
But what's interesting is I almost get the feeling sometimes that this is like good cop, bad cop. That Trump will say in a press conference that Mexico is run by cartels, and he's done this quite a few times.
Yeah.
And then Rubio goes down there and he tries to be the nice guy and let's be diplomatic. So it's probably somewhere in between. But the one thing that makes this urgent now more than ever is all the people who've been killed by fentanyl, particularly the young people.
Yes.
And I think that creates a political problem for President Trump, because my guess is that many of those parents who've lost teenagers and kids to fentanyl, they probably voted for Trump on the expectation that he was going to do something about it. So I think that is a political pressure on the Trump administration, Alan.
Oh, yes.
All right, guys.
On both sides, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else that you wanted to add here as we wrap up?
I like the Cowboys. I like the way the Cowboys played on Thursday.
Wait a minute. I thought you were going to say you liked the way Texas played on Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, how did Oklahoma do, Alan?
Oh, they won. Yeah,
they won.
They looked good. Yeah.
Well, Texas A&M did win. That's where my sons went, and they beat some other Aggies out of Utah. I didn't even know there were Aggies in Utah, but they played the Utah Aggies. So it was the Aggie battle. But I guess by next Saturday we'll start playing in the conference. But A&M, I think, has had a couple of easy victories in these pre-conference or these almost like preseason games that they play. And Archie Manning, the youngster, played a little bit better on Saturday. But the Cowboys almost won the game.
I know. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, they almost won, but then almost doesn't get you a W.
No,
as they say. And one thing, Alan, do you remember from your time in Mexico? The Cowboys were the team of Mexico.
Oh yeah, very popular. Yes,
everybody in Mexico was a Cowboy fan. It's amazing how popular they used to be. Well, guys, thank you so much. Alan, just briefly talk about your website and tell us how to contact it. I have a link to it on the show information, but tell us about it.
Yes, it's mexiconewsreport.com, and general news about Mexico. A lot of it relates to the sort of thing we've been talking about, and then other topics as well, because there's so much, happening there all the time.
Well, you always have these little features that I find so interesting, like, when you get off the politics and you get into some of the things like the types of animals in Mexico.
Oh, yes.
And stuff like that I enjoy that. I think that's a lot of fun. And George, are you doing any speaking engagements here soon?
In fact, I am doing one on Thursday here in San Antonio. But other than that, no, I probably will be going to Washington in a couple of weeks for a meeting up there. But that's, mostly I'll be just doing my own little broadcasts and my own little podcasts here.
All right. Well, I got to get you guys together so you can tell Alan your story of that 86 immigration law.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, well, you two guys are going to have to get together. And I mean, I know the story because you've told us. And today we don't have time to get into it, but you two guys need to touch base with that because it is really a fascinating story of how we got that immigration bill done in '86. And I think enforcement was the problem with that one, George.
Oh yeah, it's always been enforcement. I mean, nobody screams about letting people in. Everybody
Right.
gets upset about keeping them out or removing them.
Yeah, well, I understand what you mean. Well, guys, thank you very much and have a great weekend. Alan, the best to your family. George, the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving me your time tonight.
Thank
Got it.
you.
Thank
Great
you.
to
All
see
right.
you, George.
Bye bye.
All right. My
Take
friend
care,
Alan and my friend George. And let's see. I got to remove Alan. Oh, there you go. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good little chats tonight with a couple of our friends who know a great deal about this. George worked in the Reagan administration when the '86 immigration package was done. He's very familiar with all of that, and very interesting how that worked out. That was the one that, if you remember, created the amnesty for about 1 million or so people who were here then, and many were given amnesty and basically given, well, they were legalized based on that amnesty back in '86. The problem is that the enforcement was never quite followed up on, and I think that's where it became a problem. And of course, Alan writes his own website, Mexico News Report, which we recommend. And one of my, I mean, I get, I guess when you follow it, you get the emails when they're published, or you get the articles when they're published. And I always enjoy when George writes about things that are not politics. I love the politics, of course, but he writes about a lot of these other things about Mexico that are very interesting. Mexico is a very interesting country, very interesting history, very interesting people. And I think it's a shame that all this stuff about the cartels is going on because, you know, if we didn't have that issue and Mexicans and Americans could get to know each other better and the many interesting things in Mexico, it would be so interesting for most people to learn more about Mexico and their history and all the little things that are going on in Mexico all the time. And that's one of the things that Alan writes a great deal about. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.